In this video, we will focus on debugging in Mobius. In the theory lecture, we introduced the concept of bugs. We highlighted two types of bugs, flaws and errors. And we highlighted two types of errors, static and dynamic. Let's now have a look at the same example code from the theory lecture. We have shown it again here, as a reminder. Remember that the code contains 3 errors: 2 static errors and 1 dynamic error. Next, we will step through the process of debugging these errors in Mobius. The first static error is triggered when you type the second line of code. The flowchart node containing the error will be highlighted with a red border. For static errors, a message will also pop up in the right-hand corner. The message will describe the error. In this case, the error message states that the variable c is invalid. When you move to the next line of code, you can see that previous error is still highlighted. The input box has a red border. The second static error is triggered when you type the third line of code. In this case, the error message states that a closing bracket is expected. When you type the fourth line of code, no error is triggered. In this case, the line of code contains a dynamic error. This error will only be highlighted when you execute the code. Clicking the execute button before you have fixed the static errors will not do anything. You have to fix all the static errors before you can execute. You can fix the 2 static errors, as shown here. After fixing the errors, the red highlights around the input boxes will disappear. You can now execute the code by clicking the execute button. Executing the code will reveal the dynamic error. The first 3 lines of code were executed without any issue. But when the function was called to calculate the vector length, an error was generated. For dynamic errors, the error message is printed in the console. The message states that the argument passed to the function was incorrect. You can fix the 2 static errors, as shown here. After clicking execute, you will see that there are no more errors. There are a few Mobius features that can be very helpful when debugging. We will briefly describe them next. They are printing, disabling, and terminating. On the right-hand side of each line of code, you will see a number of small toggle buttons. These buttons will only be visible when you hover over the line of code. Lines of code that assign a value to a variable have 3 buttons. The middle button is the toggle button for printing. Clicking this button will mean that when the code is executed, the value of that variable will be printed. In the example, we can see that the value of variable c has been printed to the console. After printing the value, execution then moved to the 4th line, where it triggered the dynamic error. See that in the console, you first see the value of variable c. After that you see the error message for the dynamic error. In some cases, you may want to disable some lines of code while you are debugging. The right-hand button is the toggle button for disabling. Clicking this button will mean that when the code is executed, the selected line will be skipped. In the example, we can see that the last line of code has been disabled. When the code is executed, the dynamic error is no longer triggered. In the console, there are no more error messages. Note that the line of code that is disabled still contains the dynamic error. But since it is disabled, the error will not be triggered. In some cases, you may want to terminate the whole script at some point. This may be more convenient than disabling lots of lines of code. Terminating the script will also mean that any downstream nodes in the flowchart are also not executed. The left-hand button is the toggle button for terminating. Clicking this button will mean that when the code is executed, the whole script will terminate immediately after executing the selected line of code. In the example, we can see that the second line of code has the Terminate toggle enabled. In the console, there are no more error messages. And we can see that the end node is never executed. Note that the last line of code still contains the dynamic error. But since it is never executed, the error will not be triggered.